Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today is February 23rd and it's my birthday, yeah! So I was like, let me do something like different or just something I've never done before, which is a tag that some people on BookTube might be familiar with, although it's not really a tag, I guess, but it's the 25 Bookish Facts About Me, but I'm 31 today, so it's going to be 31 bookish facts about me. So I'm going to try to make it, as quick as possible, considering it's 31, so I can edit and upload this today. But with that being said, let's get into it. Let's learn some things about moi. So I've got all my facts on my iPad, so don't, be concerned that I keep looking down so often. But anyway, number 1, my favorite authors used to be Christopher Moore and Laurell K. Hamilton. I don't always hear a lot of people talk about Christopher Moore. He is more of a comedic author. One of my favorite books from him was Bite Me. It's like a vampire one. Pretty much everything takes place in California. I think San Francisco. I haven't read one of his books in a while. And the most recent book I read was one that was like an old-time crimey style. And then Laurell K. Hamilton, I've mentioned her several times on my channel. I used to love the Anita Blake series. I've actually been thinking about rereading it recently because, I don't know, I'm just feeling like, let's do a reread of something, up until the point where I can't stand the writing anymore. But I'm probably going to do that this year. Number 2, I'm too controlling. So bookish subscription boxes stress me out when I don't know what I'm getting. So my husband obviously knows this about me, and I don't like surprises. Okay, I like to know what's gonna happen. I like spoilers. If I'm watching a show or a movie, if I become attached to a character, I will look up if they die. That's just who I am. So I love the idea of bookish subscription boxes, and I've done 2. I did a Fairy Loot one, I think, or no, Owl Crate. And then my husband did one for me, but I can't remember what the name of that one was. I'll try to look it up and put it somewhere. But I loved the 2. I ended up loving the 2 books I got. So the first one was The Hate You Give, and the next one was Where Dreams Descend. But after that, I was like, you know what? And Where Dreams Descend was Owl Crate. And I don't know. I was confused. Like, you have to sign up for it first. It's really not that complicated, but I was just like, you know what? I'll just buy the book if I want to read it. So I like the idea, just not for me. 3, I used to hate Kindles and now I love mine. I'm pretty sure my sister was the one who, my sister and my mom were the ones who were like, you should get a Kindle. And I was like, no, I don't want to. I'm gonna stick with my books. I'm glad I evolved past that because so much more convenient. And, I pretty much take a book with me everywhere, and a Kindle is much smaller, as we all know, than like the huge books that I sometimes read. 4, same with audiobooks. I thought I would hate listening to them because for some time I thought I would hate podcasts, but then I became obsessed with podcasts and I really like audiobooks. Number 5, I am picky about audiobooks though. I like a certain type of voice, and if I don't like it, it's a totally like meh experience for me. So I've had some success with them, but I'm very, very picky with the voice. 6, I like to listen to my audiobooks on 2 times the speed. I've said this a few times. If your voice still is really great at that speed, it's perfect to me. It just sounds really, really great to me. 7, I used to be a die-hard hardcover lover, but I have since moved past that because they're huge and they obviously are expensive. I got lucky because a lot of the books that I was really interested in that were YA became bargain at Books A Million. So there was a whole series I got off the bargain section that were hardcover. So I paid no more than $6 for them, but you just don't have any room, and I get frustrated with the dust jacket. I think everybody knows that there's some dust jackets that are like velvety feeling. I don't know what that's called, but Throne of Glass was kind of in that style. And when I got Queen of Shadows, I accidentally, like, you know, the normal grease from your hand, there were fingerprints on it, and I was like, I can't handle this. So now if I have a hardcover book, I just take the dust jacket off and I deal with it, but I prefer a paperback. 8, I can't stand mass market paperbacks, but I'm only talking about the ones that are super tiny. So for example, I started reading Red Sister, Gray Sister, and I'm going to be reading Holy Sister, but those books are so freaking tiny. Trying to crack them open is so hard. My hand was cramping, and even though I did crack the spine on them, it almost didn't matter because it was still so difficult to open it. So I like a big floppy paperback. If it has the mass market, you know, looking cover, I don't care. Just not those itty bitty tiny ones. 9, the first time I unhauled books was last year. So it was the big book haul because I basically just kept all these books that I either didn't plan on reading again, very few I DNF'd, but you know, the ones that I'm like, I'm never gonna finish this, or you know what, I think somebody else would like this. They just stayed in here. So I had like way too much crap. So last year was my first unhaul, and I'm definitely not opposed to getting rid of things anymore. Number 10, I rarely DNF books. I was just recently tagged in the DNF tag, and I've tried to film it so many times, but it's hard for me because I realize I don't often DNF books. I tend to push through them and keep reading, even if I'm not enjoying myself, just so it can be over with. I'm trying not to do that, but on the upside, I'm pretty lucky. I don't have a lot of I don't end up reading a lot of books that I hate. And some of them, I think I'm just kind of like not in the mood right now, so that's why I kind of rush through it. But yeah, I'm not a DNFer that much. 11, I know a book is really good when I have to stop myself from reading ahead. We'll skip things because I want to know what happens. So any book that's got some action going down, it is so hard for me not to sometimes skip whole pages because I'm like, I need to know what happens. Like I said, I don't mind a spoiler. I have accidentally spoiled books for myself because everybody knows this. You do the thing where you kind of count through the pages that you have left in a chapter. I try really hard not to focus my eyes on the text, but there are so many times where I kind of, spoil it for myself, but I can't take it. The anticipation is killing me. And if a book is really good, like I said, it's so hard for me to slow down, but that's how I know a book is super good. Number 12, I read pretty much everywhere and at any time of day. Now, I've mentioned I'm a mood reader, so there are times where I'm just not in the mood to read, but late at night, in the morning, while I'm at work, which I know I'm not supposed to do, but it is what it is. 13, I only buy Kindle books on Kindle Deals. So I signed up for the Kindle Deals thing on Amazon, and I don't think I've ever spent like full price on a Kindle book. I get really lucky sometimes because a book that I've been kind of like, okay, I'm gonna wait, it'll be on there, so I get really excited, but I don't tend to spend more than like $6 on a Kindle book. I mean, at that point, it's like, come on, but every time someone is like, I think I want to get a Kindle, I'm like, sign up for Kindle Deals, please. It'll help you a lot. And like so many of the books that I'm into, like young adult fantasy, they end up on there, so it works out. Number 14, I read out loud, but in a whisper form. It's kind of embarrassing, and I try really hard not to do it around people other than my husband, but I have a hard time reading like in my mind. I don't have much of an inner monologue, so I can read that way, but I like to read out loud. And yes, I'm gonna go ahead and put it out there. Sometimes I whisper in an accent. Sometimes I do. It's really weird, but I feel like I'm not the only one. But I enjoy myself like that, and I like it. And it's always funny when someone is hearing me do that, because I think one time I did that in front of my sister, and she was like, oh my God, you're reading like so fast. I'm whispering very quickly. It's very odd. 15, I've gotten better about not buying books every time I go to a bookstore. But I still go to bookstores a lot, even though I don't end up buying anything. I guess it's just my way of passing the time. When I am kind of like bored, I'll go to, not so much now, but I used to just go to Books A Million, go to Barnes & Noble. And there's so many Barnes & Nobles near me. that I would just kind of go in there and walk around. Sometimes I might even pick up a book and like, oh, I'm gonna buy this. But then instead I'll just, you know, add it to my Goodreads want to read. And then, you know, then I'll check and see if there's a Kindle deal. But I'm doing so much better. So like that unhaul that I did last year was huge, but I had stopped at that point buying like books every time I went out. So it was okay. 16, I totally fall asleep while reading. I sometimes will have like the full intention of like laying in bed, reading a book, and I fall asleep pretty quickly. So there's been plenty of times where I've just knocked out, book in my face or book on my lap, and I hate when my husband catches me doing that because he laughs at me, but I definitely fall asleep while reading a lot. 17, not against dog earing a book. And 18, I also underline in certain books, but I'm too scared to highlight in a book. I don't want to do that. I got some really cool sticky pads that they are transparent, so then you can kind of underline things, but I mean at that point I just end up underlining on the page itself. So I do have the little sticky tab things to annotate stuff, but half the time like I have too many of them in there and they don't really make sense, I guess, to like a normal, not a normal person, but someone who does that. I don't really have a system set up, so I end up just dog earing and underlining. 19, although I'm a mood reader, I'm really good at sticking to a TBR, which has been super successful for me when it comes to booktube. I've done a much better job than I would have in the past, although I didn't necessarily make TBRs when I wasn't on booktube, but I definitely would have like my eye on something like, I really want to get to that. Now, even though I might switch things up a bit, I probably 9 times out of 10 will read everything I said I was going to read for that month. 20, I don't mind background noise while I'm reading books. Now, it does depend on what the background noise is. One thing I watched over and over and over again, after I'd already like really paid attention to it, was BuzzFeed Unsolved Supernatural and True Crime. So I would let that play in the background as I was reading. I do like to read in silence, but I do end up reading in my living room a lot with the TV on. But I did notice like I can't really read when like my husband's beside me and he's watching anime. Or one time he was watching Rick and Morty, and it's like, I don't know, I think it was the high pitchedness of the voices that like I couldn't focus on what I was reading. So I can and I can't, but most of the time I do like pick up a book and read at the same time. It's really hard for me to finish anything like a movie or a show because I usually get distracted and want to read at the same time. So I don't finish a lot of things very quickly. 21, I read several books at once. I think this is pretty common, but there are times when I can only focus on one. I think the most recent one for me was, I was reading, so for this month, you know, I really wanted to finish The Toll, and I did a really good job. I made it halfway through, and then everything started picking up in Grey Sister, and at that point I didn't read anything else. I just was so focused on that book that I didn't stop. So while I can pick up several at a time, if a book is super good and I can't put it down, I won't put it down. And everything just kind of gets pushed to the side until I finish this one book. 22, I'm the type of person who will rage when a book is turned into a movie or a show and they totally like go off into a whole another world. They just change things. And I put in here, don't get me started about Game of Thrones, okay? I was that person who liked the first season. I was like, oh shit, I want to read the series. Devoured it up until a certain point. I don't think I finished the last book because I was just over it at that point. No. And honestly, I have no desire to finish that series. I don't care if he brought that book out tomorrow. I don't care. I'm done. I'm done waiting, sir. But I really had to stop, okay? The things that they did in Game of Thrones to some characters pissed me off, okay? So I basically had all my friends just tell me what was happening and I just stopped from there. I mean, come on. So I will get a little hot if I really liked a book and it gets turned into like a TV or a movie and they just totally fuck it up. Like I didn't watch Winx the fairy show that's on Netflix right now. I didn't watch that as a kid, but like all of the anger and frustration that people had that I saw on Twitter, like I know where you're coming from when they just like ruin it, and you're just thinking, why did you have to do this? And no one asked for this, but had it been asked for, you should have done better. You know what I mean? So that's where we're at with that. 23, I'm not a fan of Deckled Pages, the weird old-timey Bible-looking pages. I don't like that. It's harder for me to turn the page. It feels weird. I don't like it. There are some people who live by a deckled page. And I mean, when they go over the books that they got, they're obsessed with it. I hate them so much. I would absolutely do without. 24, some of my favorite book series as a kid were Nancy Drew, Boxcar Kids, Lemony Snicket, Babysitter's Club, and Sweet Valley High. Now, there were other books that I really loved as a kid. I can't really remember what their titles were, and some of them I actually still have upstairs. I still own some of the ones I remember reading as like a preteen, but I can't remember them. And I have thought about rereading them just to see, like, you know, we'll see if that happens this year. And speaking of Sweet Valley High, this is number 25. I used to be so obsessed with that book, a series, the whole dynamic of like you're in high school and every chapter is a different person and from their perspective, that I used to write books about my friends and us in that kind of style. Oh God. I think I still have it in like all these poems I used to write in my closet. It's in a huge like crappy falling apart binder, but I really thought I did something there. Okay. I mean, I had some creativity as a child. I don't know what happened, but it was there when I was younger. And I don't know if I could handle the ridiculous stuff I most likely put on there, coming from a kid who had nothing going on. Like, I had a very good but boring ass childhood. So I know I came up with some real ridiculous stuff. 26. So my favorite singer as a kid was Mariah Carey. And my favorite song, or one of my, honestly, my favorite song, and still to this day, was The Roof. Had no business feeling those feelings as if I were in that place. You know, like when you had these moments where you would like kind of put yourself in a music video when you were listening to music. So she's my favorite singer. And I used to write a lot of dramatic poetry, like I said, about these made up scenarios that didn't happen, boyfriends I didn't have, you know, love I hadn't experienced yet. That's not really bookish, but a little thing about me is that I used to write very, very dramatic poetry as a kid. 27, before I started tracking my reading, which was like a few years ago, and reading more genres, I would reread the same series over and over and over again. And the one I reread the most was definitely Anita Blake. That was a series that once I kind of caught up to it, I definitely release day, first one in the store, got that shit, ran home, read it. And then I would just reread the whole series all over again. And like I said, I want to do that again. But I'm glad that now that I track what I read, I'm experiencing more things now and not like stuck rereading the same story over and over again. 28, my favorite mangas are Prison School and Akame ga Kill, Akame ga Kill 0. I do really like Demon Slayer, but it's not done yet. So for me, Prison School, oh, I will say this, Prison School, the Field Day arc, hated that. If you've read it, you know what I mean. It's when we're introduced to a bunch of new popular girls in the school. Not as fun as like the first 5 volumes, but I still love that series. 29, I'm really bad about buying an entire series before I actually read it and finish it. So the examples of this would be the Illuminae files. I got those books because they were pretty. And I never thought, let me crack one open and see if I could physically read this, because I couldn't. Luckily, that's what audiobook is for. But I definitely cracked that open and was like, what the fuck? How am I supposed to read this? So, example 1. And most recently, I don't even know what this whole series is called, but Gray Sister, Red Sister, and Holy Sister. I bought all of those. I'm gonna give the first book another chance. I know why I ended up liking the second book more, but I owned all 3 of them. And what if I hated the second book? Didn't even try, okay? So pretty bad about that. 30, my favorite genre is fantasy, and it really doesn't matter if it's young adult or a young adult or adult. I just like fantasy worlds in general. Contemporary isn't so bad. I found that young adult contemporary isn't my thing. And obviously I really enjoy memoirs, but fantasy will always be at the top for me. And lastly, we're at the end. The 31st fact that's bookish about me, okay, is that I feel a lot better about booktube now. So, I mean, is that considered a bookish fact? I don't know, but since I've been doing booktube, I'm enjoying myself a lot. I was super nervous at the beginning of all of this, and I'm glad that I finally took my husband's advice and started. I'm having a lot of fun, and it's been really nice to do videos, so I know, really cheesy, but I really like booktube. Oh, should I change it? Should I make a different one? No, I'm gonna keep it like that. I'm a booktuber now, and I feel it in my bones, okay? I'm confident in what I'm doing-ish. There are certain things I'm not super confident in that I haven't done yet, like a bookshelf tour, which I've said, I'm gonna do this, and I've done it twice, and it just came out really bad, but it doesn't matter. That's 31 bookish facts about me. I don't even know how long that took. I hope it wasn't too long. And I hope you enjoyed all these facts about me. I had fun doing this. I'm 31. I'm excited. I'm living life. Trying to have a work-life balance, aren't we all? So with that being said, thank you so much for watching my video. If you like the video, please like the video. And if you like the video, please subscribe. Hit the notification bell. See this face whenever I post. And yeah, everyone have a great day and goodbye.